The first element I was considered while brainstorming about how to come up with a solution was how to create value. When you create value, you don't throw something away. That was the underlying theme behind resource, not waste. The second thing was to empower myself with knowledge. I needed to understand why was plastic leaking in this area, what is causing the plastic leaking in the Asia Pacific. And also what I found was that we're so tied to this problem in Australia. We were sending a lot of our waste to these countries that were leaking into the ocean, and it's coming back to our shores. So if we don't do something about it, then the rest of these countries can't either. So we're all linked, especially through the oceans. So one of the things I discovered when looking into the problem, why was the plastic leaking into the ocean? Why was it 74% in the Asia Pacific region? It's because there's so many remote and isolated communities out there with no infrastructure, no waste management, 100% leakage. And that added up to 11 million tonnes just going into the ocean, simply because they had no access to facilities. So the idea was, if I created a small mobile recycling unit that could go to every single island in the Asia Pacific region and help them solve their problem. The other thing is, these regions, they live in the most amazing places. The Coral Triangle, for example, is one of the most beautiful places on Earth. It's got 90% of all coral species in this region, and that plastic is leaking into that ocean there and destroying these corals. So it's one of the most biodiverse regions in the world, and it's also one of the most currently devastated by plastic. The original Schroeder, which is a small mobile recycling machine, is a combination of two machines. It's a shredder, extruder, hence the name Schroeder. So the shredder shreds material into small flakes. That gets collected. The flakes go into a hopper, which is an extrusion barrel. It melts it, remolds it, and that can be made into different products. The biggest problem about collecting and sorting plastics is contaminated plastics. Organic materials is a biological nutrient. Plastics are a technical nutrient. When you combine them, they don't mix, and they're very hard to recycle. The idea is, and this is the same in landfills in Australia, one of the reasons why we're producing so much greenhouse gases is landfills with organic material joining with all the technical material. So if we separate them two, we have organics here, we have plastics and other recyclables here. That makes it so much easier, and the value goes right up for those materials because they're much easier to recycle then. Firstly, there was sort of the problems we faced from the beginning, developing a prototype. So putting in, the finances and me breaking the machine constantly and the engineers having to fix that. And then when we got to the communities with the machine, the first issue we faced was customs holding onto our machine for a couple of weeks. The weather was quite hot, but luckily our machines were built to survive sort of humid, salty, very rough conditions. The most interesting project was probably going to Mantanani Island. 1,000 people live on this island. The machine had to get delivered by a little speedboat, so it was handed off onto the shore, onto a beach. They carried it up and put it into their, what looked sort of a bit like a bomb shelter. It was a very rough shed. We had to deal with sort of a lot of live wires running all over the sand, cows coming in and eating the plastic boxes, football teams of kids coming in and jumping through the plastic. And from that we sort of developed an ethical and environmental regulation plan to make sure that these communities were going to run the machines safely. And doing the pilot program, we realised there was a number of things that we could do a lot better. So the first thing was the shredding capacity was quite low. So now we've gone up into a 3-phase shredding capacity and gone from about 10 kilos an hour up to 60 kilos an hour, so it makes it more economically viable. The second thing was, being in these remote communities, often we were getting little electric shocks off the machine, and because the electrics weren't grounded, they were very sort of rudimentary electric systems. So we decided to put everything into a shipping container, put all the electrics inside, and we have a plug and play little device that just goes to the communities, and then we don't have to worry about the quality of electrics because we've already embedded it into the container. But the other thing that we realised is these communities, because they were new enterprises getting started, they needed a lot of support. So we've developed an entire package around resource recovery training. So we have certified courses now for project managers, machinery operators, collectors and sorters and project admin. But it also engages them and allows them to join a circular economy supply chain. So we set up all that stuff as well. The work we're doing with the schools, we've been working with a school down in Port Macquarie, Hastings Secondary College, with a great teacher down there. And basically we're delivering what we call Schroeder Mark III. So this is sort of the next type of machine that we're building that has better capacity, double-headed shredding barrel. And the idea is that once we implement this in the school, then we'll be basically making the school go plastic neutral. The kids learn about material science, how to recycle, how to turn waste into resource. They're already doing great collections down there. But the other thing is the Department of Education has come and seen our machines and they've ticked it off as an approved machine that can go into high schools in year 11, 12, sort of industrial tech basically. But it can also involve the entire school. So the materials can be collected in the school grounds, so the school becomes plastic neutral, no waste is sent to landfill. Earlier this year, our business grew quite considerably from a CRCP grant from the federal government. That was a $2.5 million grant that enabled us to research and develop what we call the Schroeder Recycling Station, which is the next step up from the Schroeder. This is an equipment hardware stack with 4 pieces of equipment, integrated software designs with compliance and provenance, as well as teaching and training education packages. The key message is for students that they're in a position now to empower other people. They do have a lot of knowledge about plastics, about waste, and about the world as it is. So they need to take that knowledge and share it with their family, share it with their friends, and just show them how that we can become a waste-free world.